Yeah, it was a really busy day up on Capitol Hill because the Supreme Court is there and you still had that Democratic sit-in going on. So a lot of activity in the morning. But
Let,
you decide what you want to get to first.
let's talk about the sit-in.
Yeah,
Let's finally end that. They did end the sit-in.
they did.
How did it end?
Quietly at first, they just said, we're getting up and we're walking outside. And they were greeted outside the Capitol by many supporters, dozens of supporters who had showed up. John Lewis, a civil rights icon who led the charge for this Democratic sit-in, speaking to people outside and then leading everybody in singing, "We Shall Overcome." He said the sit-in may have ended, but their fight for action on gun control will not. And they'll come back on July 5th when Congress is back in session and keep up their push.
Yeah, Republicans said that it was just one big PR move.
Totally political stunt is what House Speaker Paul Ryan said, and he was really fired up about this. I think, number one, because it completely caught him off guard. Two, they wanted to get some things done on Wednesday that he says they didn't get to because the Democrats were holding up the process. And three, he was upset that they were fundraising off of it. He said, okay, if you want to say that this is about a cause and this is about an issue you're really passionate about, especially in the wake of a tragedy, then why did you send out 4 fundraising emails Wednesday night pointing to what you were doing on the floor? So, like everything here in Washington, highly partisan, highly political.
Then you had to run over to the Supreme Court because they were throwing out all sorts of rulings, including the one that was 4-4, which you don't get a tie very often when it comes to the Supreme Court.
No, you don't. And the decision was just one line saying that the Supreme Court affirms a decision, the judgment of a lower court by an equally divided court. We don't know who was on which side, who was the 4, who was the other 4. You can assume it fell on the usual ideological lines, but we don't even know what went into the judge's decision on this. So a little frustrating for reporters trying to get some insight there. But the president yesterday spoke about this, and he wanted to reassure the millions of undocumented immigrants who were affected by this decision that there are no plans to deport them. These executive actions gave temporary protections to the undocumented immigrants who are here, but who are the family members of U.S. citizens. And he wanted these people to be able to come out of the shadows, get work permits, and this now keeps it in legal limbo, essentially. He cannot give that protection.
Does the Supreme Court take this up again when there are 9 justices, or what happens with that?
That's the big question. The assumption is that the administration will put this back into the court system, go back and try and get another challenge and take it back up through the Texas system, back up to the Supreme Court. The president used this as an opportunity to blast Republicans for not taking action on his Supreme Court nominee, Merrick Garland. Now, the timing of it doesn't necessarily square. It's not that if they had gotten through hearings and voted on Merrick Garland, he would have been in place for the arguments, and who knows how he would have voted. But the president just saying that you have all these really major issues coming up through the court system to the highest court. You can't have only 8 justices. It's just not fair. It's not functioning as it's supposed to. Remember, President Obama was a constitutional law professor, so this is something that he takes great interest in.
Yeah. Now, we should note that the Republicans couched it as a victory, and the Democrats couched it as a loss, or the media couched it as a loss. But it wasn't either, right? It was nothing. They said it's a 4-4 vote, so we don't say one way or the other.
Exactly. It just affirms what had already been decided, which was that this overstepped the president's authority. It wasn't that the Supreme Court rejected the president. It's just because of 4-4, in a case of a 4-4 tie, the lower court ruling stands.
Yeah. Karen, real quickly, I know you're short on time, but what is Washington saying about the European Union vote?
Yeah, we're waiting to hear reaction officially from President Obama. He's in California right now, so with a time difference. But Vice President Biden spoke in Dublin about an hour ago, expressing disappointment over the vote. He said the administration would have preferred a different outcome, but the U.S. fully respects the decision by the British people, and that the bond between the U.S. and the U.K. runs deep and will endure. But certainly disappointing news to the White House, which has been pushing for the Remain side.
Karen Travers, busy week for you. Thanks for helping us out all week.
Have a great weekend.
7:10, Big 550, KTR.